Her name was Gisbella McQueen. She was hot-tempered, independent, intelligent, and she was serving 5 years of cure in Roffre Martel for larceny. Gisbella gave Foyle a cheerfully furious account of her revolt against society.
"You don't know what jaunting's done to women, Gully. It's locked us up, sent us back to the Seraglio."
"What's Seraglio, girl?"
"A harem, a place where women are kept on ice. After 1,000 years of civilization, it says here, we're still property. Jaunting's such a danger to our virtue, our value, our mint condition, that we're locked up like gold plate in a safe. There's nothing for us to do, nothing respectable. No jobs, no careers. There's no getting out, Gully, unless you bust out and smash all the rules."
"Did you have to, Giz?"
"I had to be independent, Gully. I had to live my own life, and that's the only way society would let me. So I ran away from home and turned crook."
And Giz went on to describe the lurid details of her revolt, the temper racket, the cataract racket, the honeymoon and obituary robs, the badger jaunt, and the glime drop. Foyle told her about Nomad and Vorga, his hatred and his plans. He did not tell Gisbella about his face or the 20 millions in platinum bullion waiting out in the asteroids.
"What happened to Nomad?" Gisbella asked. "Was it like that man Dagenham said? Was she blasted by an OS raider?"
"I don't know, me. Can't remember, girl."
"The blast probably wiped out your memory. Shock. And being marooned for 6 months didn't help. Did you notice anything worth salvaging from Nomad?"
"No."
"Did Dagenham mention anything?"
"No," Foyle lied.
"Then he must have another reason for hounding you into Roffre Martel. There must be something else he wants from Nomad."
"Yeah, Giz."
"But you're a fool trying to blow up Vorga like that. You're like a wild beast trying to punish the trap that injured it. Steel isn't alive. It doesn't think. You can't punish Vorga."
"Don't know what you mean, girl. Vorga passed me by."
"You punish the brain, Gully. The brain that sets the trap. Find out who was aboard Vorga. Find out who gave the order to pass you by. Punish him."
"Yeah. How?"
"Learn to think, Gully. The head that could figure out how to get Nomad underway and how to put a bomb together ought to be able to figure that out. But no more bombs, brains instead. Locate a member of Vorga's crew. He'll tell you who was aboard. Track them down. Find out who gave the order. Then punish him. But it'll take time, Gully. Time and money. More than you've got."
"I got a whole life, me." They murmured for hours across the whisper line, their voices sounding small yet close to the ear. There was only one particular spot in each cell where the other could be heard, which was why so much time had passed before they discovered the miracle. But now they made up for lost time, and Gisbella educated Foyle.
"If we ever break out of Wolf Martel, Gully, it'll have to be together, and I'm not trusting myself to an illiterate partner."
"Who's illiterate?"
"You are," Gisbella answered firmly. "I have to talk gutter at you half the time, me."
"I can read and write."
"And that's about all, which means that outside of brute strength you'll be useless."
"Talk sense, you," he said angrily.
"I am talking sense. What's the use of the strongest chisel in the world if it doesn't have an edge? You've got to sharpen your wits, Gully. Got to educate you, man, is all."
He submitted. He realized she was right. He would need training not only for the bust-out, but for the search for Vorga as well. Gisbella was the daughter of an architect and had received an education. This was drilled into Foyle, leavened with the cynical experience of 5 years in the underworld. Occasionally he rebelled against the hard work, and then there would be whispered quarrels, but in the end he would apologize and submit again. And sometimes Gisbella would tire of teaching, and then they would ramble on, sharing dreams in the dark.
"I think we're falling in love, Gully."
"I think so too, Giz."
"I'm an old hag, Gully, 105 years old. What are you like?"
"Awful."
"How awful?"
"My face."
"You make yourself sound romantic. Is it one of those exciting scars that make a man attractive?"
"No, you'll see when we meet us." "That's wrong, isn't it, Giz? Just plain, when we meet, period."
"Good boy."
"We will meet someday, won't we, Giz?"
"Soon, I hope, Gully."
Gisbella's faraway voice became crisp and businesslike.
But we've got to stop hoping and get down to work. We've got to plan and prepare.
From the underworld, Gisbella had inherited a mass of information about Roffre Martel. No one had ever jaunted out of the cavern hospitals, but for decades the underworld had been collecting and collating information about them. It was from this data that Gisbella had formed her quick recognition of the whisper line that joined them. It was on the basis of this information that she began to discuss escape.
We can pull it off, Gully. Never doubt that for a minute. There must be a dozen loopholes in the security system.
No one's ever found them before.
No one's ever worked with a partner before. We'll pool our information and we'll make it.
He no longer shambled to sanitation and back. He felt the corridor walls, noted doors, noted their texture, counted, listened, deduced, and reported. He made a note of every separate step in the sanitation pens and reported them to Giz. The questions he whispered to the men around him in the shower and scrub rooms had purpose. Together, Foyle and Gisbella built up a picture of the routine of Roffre Martel and its security system. One morning, on the return from sanitation, he was stopped as he was about to set back into his cell. "Stay in line, Foyle."
"This is North 111. I know where to get off by now."
"Keep moving."
"But..." He was terrified. "You're changing me?"
"Visitor to see you." He was marched up to the end of the north corridor where it met the three other main corridors that formed the huge cross of the hospital. In the center of the cross were the administration offices, maintenance workshops, clinics, and plants. Foyle was thrust into a room as dark as his cell. The door was shut behind him. He became aware of a faint shimmering outline in the blackness. It was no more than the ghost of an image with a blurred body and a death's head. Two black discs on the skull face were either eye sockets or infrared goggles. "Good morning," said Saul Dagenham.
"You!"
Foyle exclaimed. "Me. I've got 5 minutes. Sit down. Chair behind you." Foyle felt for the chair and sat down slowly. "Enjoying yourself?" Dagenham inquired.
"What do you want, Dagenham?"
"There's been a change," Dagenham said dryly. "Last time we talked, your dialogue consisted entirely of 'go to hell.'"
"Go to hell, Dagenham, if it'll make you feel any better."
"Your repartee's improved. Your speech, too. You've changed," Dagenham said. "Changed to damn sight, too. Much and damn sight too fast. I don't like it. What's happened to you?"
"I've been going to night school." "You've had 10 months in this night school." 10 months!" Foyle echoed in amazement. "That long?"
10 months without sight and without sound. 10 months in solitary. You ought to be broke."
"Oh, I'm broke all right."
"You ought to be whining." "I was right. You're unusual. At this rate, it's going to take too long. We can't wait. I'd like to make a new offer." "Make it." 10% of Nomad's bullion. 2 million.
2 million? Foyle exclaimed. "Why didn't you offer that in the first place?"
"Because I didn't know your caliber. Is it a deal?"
"Almost. Not yet."
"What else?"
"I get out of Roffre Martel."
"Naturally."
"And someone else, too."
"It can be arranged." Dagenham's voice sharpened. "Anything else?"
"I get access to Prestine's files."
"Out of the question. Are you insane?" "Be reasonable."
"His shipping files."
"What for?"
"A list of personnel aboard one of his ships."
"Ugh." Dagenham's eagerness revived. "That I can arrange. Anything else?"
"No."
"Then it's a deal." Dagenham was delighted. The ghostly blur of light arose from his chair. "We'll have you out in 6 hours. We'll start arrangements for your friend at once. It's a pity we wasted this time, but no one can figure you, Foyle."
"Why didn't you send a telepath to work me over?"
"A telepath? Be reasonable, Foyle. There aren't 10 full telepaths in all the inner planets. Their time is earmarked for the next 10 years. We wouldn't persuade one to interrupt his schedule for love or money."
"I apologize, Dagenham. I thought you didn't know your business."
"You very nearly hurt my feelings."
"Now I know you're just lying."
"You're flattering me."
"You could have hired a telepath. For a cut in 20 million, you could have hired one easy."
"The government would never..."
"They don't all work for the government. No. You've got something too hot to let a telepath get near."
The blue of light leaped across the room and seized Foyle.
"How much do you know, Foyle? What are you covering? Who are you working for?"
Dagenham's hands shook. Christ, what a fool I've been. Of course you're unusual. You're no common spaceman. I asked you, who are you working for? Foyle tore Dagenham's hands away from him. No one, he said. No one except myself. No one, eh? Including your friend and Wolfram Martel you're so eager to rescue? By God, you almost swindled me, Foyle. Tell Captain Yang Yovel I congratulate him. He's got a better staff than I thought. I never heard of any Yang Yovel. You and your colleague are going to rot here. It's no deal. You'll fester here. I'll have you moved to the worst cell in the hospital. I'll sink you to the bottom of Wolfram Martel. I'll guard... here! Foyle grasped Dagenham's throat, dragged him down to the floor, and hammered his head on the flagstones. Dagenham squirmed once and then was still. Foyle ripped the goggles off his face and put them on. Sight returned in soft red and rose lights and shadows. He was in a small reception room with a table and 2 chairs. Foyle stripped Dagenham's jacket off and put it on with 2 quick jerks that split the shoulders. Dagenham's cocked highwayman's hat lay on the table. Foyle clapped it over his head and pulled the brim down before his face. On opposite walls were 2 doors. Foyle opened one a crack. It led out to the north corridor. He closed it, leaped across the room, and tried the other. It opened into a jaunt-proof maze. Foyle slipped through the door and entered the maze. Without a guide to lead him through the labyrinth, he was immediately lost. He began to run around the twists and turns and found himself back at the reception room. Dagenham was struggling to his knees. Foyle turned back into the maze again. He ran. He came to a closed door and thrust it open. It revealed a large workshop illuminated by normal light. 2 technicians working at a machine bench looked up in surprise. Foyle snatched up a sledgehammer, leaped on them like a caveman, and felled them. Behind him he heard Dagenham shouting in the distance. He looked around wildly, dreading the discovery that he was trapped in a cul-de-sac. The workshop was L-shaped. Foyle tore around the corner, burst through the entrance of another jaunt-proof maze, and was lost again. The Wolfram Martel alarm system began clattering. Foyle battered at the walls of the labyrinth with the sledge, shattering the thin plastic masking, and found himself in the infrared-lit south corridor of the women's quadrant. 2 women guards came up the corridor, running hard. Foyle swung the sledge and dropped them. He was near the head of the corridor. Before him stretched a long perspective of cell doors, each bearing a glowing red number. Overhead, the corridor was lit by glowing red globes. Foyle stood on tiptoe and clubbed the globe above him. He hammered through the socket and smashed the current cable. The entire corridor went dark, even to goggles. Evens us up all in the dark now, Foyle gasped and tore down the corridor, feeling the walls he ran and counting cell doors. Gisbella had given him an accurate word picture of the south quadrant. He was counting his way toward south 900. He blundered into a figure, another guard. Foyle hacked at her once with his sledge. She shrieked and fell. The women patients began shrieking. Foyle lost count, ran on, stopped. "Giz!" he bellowed. He heard her voice. He encountered another guard, disposed of her, ran, located Gisbella's cell. "Gully, for God's sake!" Her voice was muffled. "Get back, girl, back!" He hammered thrice against the door with his sledge, and it burst inward. He staggered in and fell against a figure. "Jeez!" he gasped. "Excuse me. Was passing by. Thought I'd drop in." "Gully, in the name of—" "Yeah, hell of a way to meet, eh? Come on, out, girl, out!" He dragged her out of the cell. "We can't try a break through the offices. They don't like me back there. Which way to your sanitation pens?" "Gully, you're crazy." "Whole quadrant's dark. I smashed the power cable. We've got half a chance. Go, girl, go!" He gave her a powerful thrust, and she led him down the passages to the automatic stalls of the women's sanitation pens, while mechanical hands removed their uniforms, soaped, soaked, sprayed, and disinfected them. Foyle felt for the glass pane of the medical observation window. He found it, swung the sledge, and smashed it. "Get in, Jiz!" He hurled her through the window and followed. They were both stripped, greasy with soap, slashed, and bleeding. Foyle slipped and crashed through the blackness, searching for the door through which the medical offices entered. "Can't find the door, Jiz! Door from the clinic. Shh! But be quiet, Gully." A soapy hand found his mouth and clamped over it. She gripped his shoulder so hard that her fingernails pierced his skin. Through the bedlam in the cavern sounded the clatter of steps close at hand. Guards were running blindly through the sanitation stalls. The infrared lights had not yet been repaired. "They may not notice the window," Isabella hissed. "Be quiet." They crouched on the floor. Steps trampled through the pens in bewildering succession. Then they were gone.
"All clear now," Gisbella whispered. "But they'll have searchlights any minute. Come on, Gully, out." "But the door to the clink, I thought—" "There is no door. They use spiral stairs and they pull them up. They've thought of this escape, too. We'll have to try the laundry lift. God knows what good it'll do us. Oh, Gully, you fool, you utter fool."
They climbed through the observation window back into the pens. They searched through the darkness for the lifts by which soiled uniforms were removed and fresh uniforms issued, and in the darkness the automatic hands again soaped, sprayed, and disinfected them. They could find nothing. The caterwauling of a siren suddenly echoed through the cavern, silencing all other sound. There came a hush of suffocating as the darkness.
"They're using the G-phone to track us, Gully."
"The what?"
"Geophone. It can trace a whisper through half a mile of solid rock. That's why they've sirened for silence."
"The laundry lift?"
"Can't find it."
"Then come on."
"Where?"
"We're running."
"Where?"
"I don't know, but I'm not getting caught flat-footed. Come on. The exercise will do you good." Again he thrust Gisbella before him, and they ran, gasping and stumbling through the blackness, down into the deepest reaches of South Quadrant. Gisbella fell twice, blundering against turns in the passages. Foyle took the lead and ran, holding the 20-pound sledge in his hand, the handle extended before him as an antenna. Then they crashed into a blank wall and realized they had reached the dead end of the corridor. They were boxed, trapped.